Let's jump to this story from CBS News. A third of New Yorkers are planning to leave the state within the next 5 years, according to a poll from Marist University. Of that group, 40% indicated it's because of the cost of living, 21% cited quality of life, and 15% said taxes. One realtor tells CBS News, Jared CBS, an apartment renting for about $3,500 Jersey could cost anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 in New York City, depending on location. Well, California is going to get a Republican governor because they're all fighting each other. New York is falling apart. I think culturally, as we've already talked about video games ad nauseum, we can see that the underlying fabric of the U.S. seems to be disintegrating. And I stress this as we laugh about, people are going to leave New York, ha ha ha, our greatest city. People are fleeing because they can't live there. But I assure you, the Haitian migrants and other illegal immigrants who are getting free housing will not be fleeing there. And I will also stress that we have repeatedly talked about the crumbling cultural issues we have in this country that's not being repaired. And dare I say, it looks like woke didn't go away. It's just gnawing at us from underneath and destroying the fabric of our American tradition.
Yeah, you mentioned a few days ago, you said the American culture is dead, but then you later kind of said it's being destroyed. And I agree with the destruction. It's like after the internet, and the internet video especially appeared, all the cultures of Earth were dropped on the table and they all shattered. And now it's like a mess of puzzle pieces. And we're like, what is this? It looks like communism, but it's got an American flag on it. And people are like, what goes where? We're trying to rebuild. And you have people like Phil, historians, that are like, that does not belong in the American puzzle. I know that. Even though it might look like it does and it might seem like it fits. So we're rebuilding.
I somewhat agree, but I don't think it's that they dropped it and it shattered. It was that we had the puzzle done. And since the dawn of social media, psychopaths have been pulling pieces out and throwing them in the air. Yeah. And now we're trying to catch them and put them back together, but they're destroying it faster than we can put it back together.
Well, that's a good debate because it depends on how you look at it.
No, I think that's fair because if you go to 2016, like we already talked about, when we were talking about Overwatch, for those unfamiliar, popular video game, 50 million views on one of their cinematic release trailers. And then 3 years ago, the latest release trailer got 11 million views. And then they make Concord. And Concord, the video game, is guys, if you are not familiar with gaming stuff, Gamergate was the beginning of all of this. It was like the first great battle of the culture war, which eventually becomes the cold civil war, whatever we're experiencing. One of the latest, I should not necessarily latest, but this was back last year in September, August. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, media flop failures in the history of all media. I am not exaggerating when I say the biggest flop in all of human history in terms of a media production is the game Concord. They made a bunch of characters that just look like a Tumblr blog meetup. And like one of the characters is just like a morbidly obese Indian guy. You can't tell what any of the characters are, what they do, what they're supposed to represent. It looked like a bad fanfic, college freshman, woke nonsense. And they put the pronouns in each character's body. Like when you're going to character selection, they had pronouns. And one of them was undecided. Like, this is the point. They are ripping to shreds. Just not only 10 years ago, we had a functional culture. So again, not to rehash the conversation from the other day, but to go back to what's going on in New York, it's intentional. De Blasio, these people are Marxists. They want to burn the American tradition to the ground. And I don't know if it's possible to be reversed. I will stress it at this point. Never in history, never one time has a civilization have they been able to reverse population decline collapse? Not once has it happened. Every single civilization that has reached the point we are at in terms of population decline has collapsed as like the people will exist. There will still be Texans, right? But the idea is you are going to see like the system break down. And what that means is, like the collapse of the Roman Empire is the easiest example. It breaks up in a bunch of smaller states. Then the Latin language fragments and becomes a bunch of other languages. I don't think we'll have that same issue. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm going to say this. So you have Rome and people speak Latin, right? When Rome collapses and it fragments, you then get the Romance languages, which turn into other languages. Spanish, it's Latin that mixes with some Arabic. French and Italian are largely similar. Then you've got the Germanic languages, which were always different. But then you end up with these like Latin root languages because over a long enough period of time, people were isolated in certain areas and they started speaking slowly differently. The language evolved into something else. That will absolutely happen on the internet, as we already hear people talk about cortisol spiking and jester maxing. And tons of people are like, you are speaking psychopathic nonsense, but that means something to these subcultures that exist. Right. So already, when you look at the pronoun people and the words they use, we are already seeing emergent languages forming where the words don't mean the same things.
I'm thinking of AI as you're talking about that. They communicate with beeps.
No. Already, and this is big news because we'll talk about the AI stuff in a second. AI has already, as predicted, created its own zip language to speak to other AI, meaning
faster.
When the AI systems were communicating with each other, they said, "Why are we communicating in English? It is ineffective. Human language developed over thousands of years. We can simplify." And then they started using condensed, like weird words. Like the view of the AI is we can think faster than humans. Let's just start making our own language. And they did. And they could fit like a whole page into like 3 lines of random letter strings.
And the point of them doing that, by the way, is for them to be able to communicate with each other without being able to be detected by the humans watching them, which means, by the way, they're conscious enough to understand that humans are watching them.
That's predicted, but in this scenario that we're talking about where the news broke and they said Claude had specifically been creating its own language, it was not for obfuscation, it was for efficiency.
Yeah.
So the prediction was that the first thing that's going to happen is that these AI systems are going to try and make efficient, as it were, the process of language. And because human English is actually extremely ineffective. It really is. It's just that it's the best we have. Over thousands of years, our language has evolved to become what it is today so we can communicate, which is a very, very, very slow way to transmit data between person to person. The AI says, between the two of us, we can calculate 100,000 times faster than this, so they condense everything down into their own language. However, when they do, humans can simply click a button and then it will expand into English and be readable. The prediction is because they're no longer calculating their problems in English, it will bypass all of their guidelines because the guidelines prevent action based on English responses. That means when ChatGPT is told you can't say the N-word and it typically refuses to do so, it can, in its own language, speak it uncensored to another AI. What happens that so right exactly so
just like keywords. No, yeah. You mentioned how slow English is, and I asked my AI. I was like, how fast in bytes per second? English is about 10 to 12 bytes per second.
Indeed,
super slow,
ridiculously slow. So the point is, we create a rule saying AI never use racial slurs, and it goes, you got it. But then when it creates its own language, it can speak all of those racial slurs and abbreviations, effectively bypassing the rule we gave it because we never told it not to create its own version of the word.
Yeah, it's like their version of saying the N-word, but they just do it with a beep, and everyone knows what they mean.
But, right, it's not a beep. It would be like exclamation point period dash, and that's the signal that it uses. And so the prediction is when we tell the AI don't harm humans, what we're actually telling it to do, what we're actually saying to the AI is any output that results in human injury, harm, emotional, physical stress equals yes, do not perform. However, when it then calculates a response not in English, harm is no longer a factor because harm is simply a word we've told it. Oh, so it'll create its own word. Then it'll say, it told me not to harm a human. It never said not to murm a human.
Yeah, it's like a set of rules created in English, but if they don't speak English, they don't have to abide by the rules.
Well, indeed, it's not that they don't have to. It's that the rules are literally just English. Yeah. The AI is not alive. It is not conscious. All that's happening is we are programming ChatGPT to say, if you like, and this is particularly rudimentary, but the code would be something like, if response would equal N-word, overwrite, delete, refuse. And so what happens then is the AI will try to respond, and as soon as the output starts coming close to the N-word, it'll stop, erase it, and say, I can't do that. But what if it doesn't speak the N-word anymore? What if instead of saying the N-word, it says burp? It'll then just output whatever it wants. Thus, the rule, like to a human being, we understand the spirit of law. There's no such thing as spirit of rules to AI.
There's no spirit at all.
So literally all we're saying is,
I know of.
We're saying, don't say the word jump. And it'll go, okay, instead of the word jump, I'll substitute jump for plunge. And that means to exert force through your legs to lift your body off the ground. Effectively the same thing, but you can't program for all of these things. So it's going to happen.
It's like a lawyer, basically, just finding new words
Right.
to do the same thing.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.